This week, let's do a full composition. While it's fun to draw one object, drawing more than one can also be fun. This is known as composition. Let's put together a simple composition and use our knowledge so far to make this a cool drawing. We set up the workspace for our drawing in the last video. Take a look at that one, or download the Procreate file on the web page for this lesson. Compositions have their objects interacting with each other, so let's look at this reference photo a bit more carefully. Before I do, I often add a few layers. First, I duplicate and unlock the duplicate of the photo. Secondly, I'll make a new layer I'll call measuring, where I can jot measurements of the composition right on the layer. Next, I'll scale up the photo. I'll also change to the bright color to make it easier to see. To make it absolutely clear, I'm going to use some images for this instead of this measuring layer. We'll come back to it in a little bit. This is a single light source. I'll ignore the background stuff and concentrate on the cup, the carton, and the ball. The carton casts a shadow on the cup, and the ball casts a shadow on the cup. The cup in return casts reflective light at the ball, the carton, and the carton's handle. Some other things to note here. The cup and carton are slightly translucent, so light is showing through both sides, though less on the shade side. There's a thicker part of the cup just under the ball, and it is blocking light. The edges of the carton are highlighted, but the interior of the box is not since the lid is on. There is also a reflective light from the table to the cup. While we're more interested in light here, let's try to get close to sizes and shapes. In drawing, we use relative measures, making one part of the image a standard to measure everything else. I'll pick a basic unit to work from, and that will be the smaller diameter of the cup's ends. I'm going to cut that in half to get a smaller line. I'll draw a line, and I'll use that as my standard on my measuring layer. Using your fingers like calipers, I can estimate the cup is 4 and a bit tall from that diameter. The open part of the cup on the table is about 2 3/4. The ball is about 1 2/3. Now the top of the carton is just about 2.5 by 2 and a height of just shy by 3. Let's go back to Procreate, where I've done most of this measuring on the drawing. I have one side of the carton yet to do over here, and I'm going to go ahead and do that so I can show you how I'm doing this. First, I'm going to make my starting mark over here. So we got a starting mark. And then I'm going to pinch my fingers to the size of the original segment. That's the one over here. I was clicking the ball, but no, we want this one. And then once we take that, I'm going to go over here, and I'm just going to move my thumb right there. Now I'm going to make sure I don't touch both because that's going to be an undo. All right? And then I'll do it again, and I'll again get that measurement, and I'll check that again and see where that is, and that's over there somewhere. Let me just 100% sure because that doesn't look right. Yeah, and I didn't do that one right, so it's really right here. And then I can just draw a line in there, like so. And it's pretty much right on that line, so we're right at the edge here. So that's about where we want to be. Now, you might be thinking, hey, I could just trace this information, and you'd be right. However, if you need to work from life and have no reference, this method works without a reference photo as well. Just make your mark, and you've got your measuring data. You just need your fingers. So now let's go switch to the sketch layer here. So I'm going to go to sketch here, and I'm also going to turn off that big reference photo so I just have my measuring information. Now I'll sketch in those objects with that size information. And now I'm going to speed up the video here to make this a little easier to see. I'll use the warm white to sketch the lines. I'll start with the carton, looking at the reference photo as I work. I sketch in one side and see the gap between that side and the top. I'll add in the second side. then work on the top. I'll roughly draw in those flaps on top and refine them later. I'll work on those side flaps next. One really doesn't show, but I'm going to mark it for now. And there's my carton. Next, I'll make the oval for the top of the cup and add the ball on top of that. I'll pull back and finish the body of the cup. I can use straight lines between the end point of the top and bottom to get the taper. I'll connect those bottom points to the middle lower part to make the lower part of the cup. And we have our rough outline. Now to fill it in. I'll decide on colors for this image. The carton will use cooler colors and the cup warmer ones, though I'll use a warm white for all the light areas. This can take a while, so again, I'm going to speed up the video. I'll remove the measure layer and head over to the sketch layer to start filling it in. I'll add some white for the light areas, I think. Then on the cup and ball, some warm color. And then I'll add cool color to the carton. I'm not liking the position of this, so I'll move the layer using the arrow tool to drag it over a little. I'll do a close-up of the ball and pull up the reference window to make it easier to see what I have to do here. First, some of the shadows. And then that reflected light on the bottom. I'll trim up the sides with the eraser. The ball's shadow doesn't fit, so I'll add a little bit more to the cup, then add the shadow. Then I'll work on that shadow and the light on the rim of the cup. Next, I'll work on blending to the main part of the cup. And I'm going to add that cast shadow from the carton. Then work on the light, including adding a little of the bright color to the cup. I see I'm too light in places, so I'll darken that in. And that area I expanded needs to be darkened too, leading to that bottom shadow. Now I'll work on the lip of the cup that's on the table, including that spot of light that's in the middle. Next, I'll build up the cup shadow on the table. Too much, so I'm going to trim it back a bit. Enough on the cup. Onto the carton, and I'm going to start blending here. I'm trying to keep sharp corners, so I'm going to keep putting in straight lines. The box places that have light transmitting through them, I'm going to use the highlight color and darken them with the cool color. The edge of the carton has some light and some shadow, so I'll mark those in thinner lines, and I can see that fold at the top better. Now to start working on the top. There's a shadow and some transmitted light under the flaps. Now I'll work on those side flaps. and more on the top. The side is too dark, so I'm going to lighten it a bit. The back corner of the top needs to be darker. And now for the handle. Most of it is dark, but there are a few reflected spots on it, particularly that one in the middle. That top still bothers me, so I'll move it around a bit and make the shadow smaller on that flap. I need a little bit more light on that bottom rim of the cup. And I'm going to call this one done. We keep adding details to this, finding smaller, interesting light and shadow patterns. When done, you'll get something that looks like this. Again, the more you practice, the better you're going to get. Your first few won't be masterpieces, but you're learning incredible amounts about light and shade. Your challenge is to do this still life. Take your time. It may take you hours to render it if you want to look good. While what I demonstrated took 20 minutes, this is another one that took me 1 hour and 45 minutes. If you want to try others, I've posted a few more to the webpage. We've now done a bit about composition, and we're going to start doing some more exciting things. We learned about some cool and warm colors. We're going to start working on building a palette and learning more about color in the next lesson. Hit subscribe so that you can get all the lessons, and until next time, keep creating.